3, 2, 1. Right here. 4 tires of fuel.
Ride 1.
Outside.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Foreign Fuel Podcast, episode 12. Second episode of the week, as we had the NASCAR Cup Series All-Star race on Wednesday night at Bristol. I just got home from Bristol, so I'm a little tired, but got a lot to talk about with my trip. That's really going to be the majority of the podcast, just talk about the trip. And we'll talk about the race a little bit. And we'll make our picks for Texas later on, even though we probably know who's going to win the race. But you'll find out who got to pick that guy that we think is going to win the race. So, Steve, what did you do for the All-Star race? How did you spend that Wednesday night?
Well, unfortunately, I couldn't join you guys in Bristol. I wish I could have, but I got off work and went downstairs to my couch and just kicked back and watched the race. It actually went by really quick. I felt like between when the race started to all of a sudden we were in the last segment with 15 to go, and that just flew by. And so, yeah, I was just downstairs kicking it back. Had my Junior Juice Budweiser with me. And that was that.
Kevin?
Yeah, basically the same. Just in my basement, just watching the race, and like Steve said, it went by pretty fast. I was expecting it to be kind of a long haul, but all of a sudden there were like 10 to go, and I was like, oh, okay, well, all right, here we go.
It felt really quick at the track, but the way they put the event on was really well done, in my opinion. There was about 25,000 people. I'll say that was like around what people were saying. They didn't release an official number, but the event was pretty nice. It was almost like some sense of normalcy outside of like masks and stuff. And it was run pretty well. People were kind of spread out. The closest people that I could see was in the fan souvenir section that they had right outside the track. There was about 10 to 15 tents set up, and they had the two souvenir haulers for Chase Elliott and Jimmy Johnson with some Alex Bowman and William Byron gear in the Jimmy Johnson hauler. Other than that, everyone else was pretty spread out. The food was still going on, the concession souvenirs inside the track that, I think like programs and stuff, we didn't really walk up to those stands really. Just got some water from the concessions, and that was like $4.50 for a bottle of water. But I mean, that coming in, it was our fault for not packing water because we really didn't have any clear bags. They didn't allow coolers in there. It had to be clear bags so people didn't have to search through your stuff. It was just less people to come in contact with. Everyone had to wear masks walking into the seats, so once you got to your seats, you didn't have to wear the masks. So really the majority of the night was spent, with freedom, no masks on or anything. But I did get to meet fellow Foreign Fuel podcaster Wesley Riddle. He couldn't join the podcast tonight. He's got work early in the morning, his first day back at work. We met up at the racetrack. We got to sit together and enjoy some racing. Wes is just like what you see on this podcast. That's what you're going to get from him in person. One of the nicest guys you'll meet, and hopefully we can meet up again. We actually we stopped on my way back home to New Jersey. We stopped at Olive Garden for lunch today.
There you go.
Because we didn't really get to do anything after the race because we went to Cookout. we went to Cookout. They didn't have their dine-in open, so we were going to get the drive-through and then hang out outside and eat it. But by the time we got to Cookout and got our food, it was past 1 o'clock in the morning.
Oh,
and
Jesus.
Wes had another 2 hours to drive. So he was just like, yeah, maybe we can meet up on Friday. But I got another like 2.5 hours to drive, and it's 1 o'clock in the morning.
Man. Poor Wes.
So he's probably really exhausted right now.
Yeah.
Hopefully he's sleeping. But I'll tell you what, after the race, it felt like a normal, you go to a cup race, it felt normal. Like the race traffic getting out was insane. Our group waited about, maybe a half hour, 45 minutes after the finish to leave our seats. We were one of the last fans to really leave our seats. And just going outside and seeing all the red lights, like all the brake lights on, it was insane.
That's even with reduced people in there.
Exactly.
That's what I was thinking. Can you imagine if they had like the full capacity, like 100,000,
Oh my
at least
God.
100,000 people?
Jesus.
I'd probably still be in the parking lot. Like,
We'd be doing the foreign fuel from the parking lot.
And live from the Bristol parking lot. It's the Fourth Field Podcast.
Literally, it was insane. So we were in the car for about 45 minutes to an hour before we got onto the road. But once you got onto the road, it was smooth sailing.
Yeah.
We were there for that long. We saw all the trailers leave. We saw all the haulers leave. And it was funny. Denny Hamlin's was in front of Corey LaJoy's, directly in front of it. And the last one was Joey Logano's. And that's when we pulled out of the highway. So I was following Logano's, like, basically all the way to Cookout. So we got off 81 while Logano's hauler kept going. It was pretty cool.
Did you see McDowell's and Bubba Wallace's haulers close together?
No, didn't see them close together. There was a piece of Bubba's car in there and McDowell's hauler, but we didn't get to see that. And it was actually funny. Wes's car, I think he has a Nissan Altima. Mm-hmm. His rims are the same as my mom's Honda Civic's rims. So we could, that's how we, I could see, Wes's car. Because when we first got there, I was looking for Wes, and Wes was like, I see you, but I couldn't see him. I guess he was just sitting in his car. I was like, where is he? Oh, he's like, I think I see you. And then he starts walking. I was like, oh, there he is. And like I said before, thank God he wasn't really short or really tall.
Really
he was
tall.
Basically my same height. Because it's just it's weird, especially if you meet someone for the first time in person, and you're looking up at them when you're talking or looking down at them while you're talking. It's just really weird.
Yeah, I feel like it's really weird, especially for all of us. We've known each other for a really long time, and then when you actually meet up in person, and the voice and you see the face, but you can never tell how tall they are.
Yeah,
I feel like that'd be really weird. Just thinking of imagining Wes really tall or really short. That's just a weird image.
Yeah, that would be so weird.
Yeah.
Oh, Wes 7 foot tall here.
But I also got to meet our buddy Caden. We actually met up after the Open, in between the All-Star race and the Open, and he decided to come up and sit with us because he really weren't monitoring the sections, and checking your tickets at the sections. They only checked your tickets at the gate.
Yeah.
So Caden joined us for the first 3 stages of the All-Star race. And he was the same height as us. Caden was pretty cool to meet. So 2 more people I've met, from online in person. Just got to keep checking these
checking the boxes off.
Checking the boxes off. And, we got to all meet up here sometime here soon.
No, hopefully our maybe the trip that we're thinking of taking next year still works out.
Hopefully.
I'm hoping all this COVID passes soon.
And
we can get that in the works because, man, that'd be awesome.
Mm-hmm. But, yeah, it was my first time at Bristol. I kind of felt like I wanted more. And that's why I feel like I need to go back in the next couple of years to the Bristol Night Race to get a full 500-lap experience with 40 cars on the racetrack. I just feel like that's what makes Bristol that much better because with 20 cars, it kind of got spread out a little bit. No one really got log jammed. That's what kind of creates the good battles at Bristol for the lead, at least, is lap traffic holding up the leader. And you get maybe the top 5 all within striking distance of the lead. I just felt like either needed more cars or we needed more laps.
Yeah, really the 15 laps at the end, that was like nothing. When you're running 15.5-second laps, that you don't have that much time.
Exactly. Yep.
It's like
to get
it was
going.
less than 5 minutes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And that's where I think NASCAR went wrong with it. I do think that Bristol is a great track to do it at, and especially with the short track package, I think that's good. But they just didn't prepare the track quite right. Like the top groove, if you weren't hooking the bottom and you got up in the marbles, you were just going right up to the wall.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I don't think the track was really prepared correctly, and it didn't help that there were no other series they're racing. Like
Mm-hmm.
when the cars went out for the Open, that was the first time cars had been on the track in who knows how long.
Yeah.
But so it didn't really provide as good of racing as I think we were hoping for, and it didn't help only having 20 cars. But I still think, as far as the track, I think it was a lot better than what we would have seen at Charlotte, like we've seen for all these years.
That, in relation to the final stage, I think 10 laps for a final stage at Charlotte is perfect. I think 10 laps is what you're going to get. You're going to get that restart in high intensity, but once that leader gets ahead, usually that's who's going to win the race. So there's no reason to run 20 laps just to see the same guy start pulling away from the field and win by 3-4 seconds. But at Bristol, that's a track where things develop over time. You get more laps on the track. It widens the groove because in turns 3 and 4, the outside started to work. Drivers were working the outside in 3 and 4, trying to develop runs, and were actually able to stay ahead. Like Keselowski there at the end of the third stage was able to stay ahead of Kyle Busch by just running it outside in 3 and 4 and getting the run off and having him clear. In 1 and 2, though, if you got to the outside, you were done. Like, there was just no shot whatsoever, which is kind of like old Bristol, but with this package and these cars and the low horsepower, a single lane Bristol might not be the best thing for this.
I think they're trying to go back to the old Bristol with the cars. They still think that the cars are in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they're setting the track up like we're still racing, back in 1995, Earnhardt rattling Labonte's cage kind of style, and they're just not there. I don't know what they can do to make it better, but I don't know. They've improved Bristol for sure, because what we've seen the last couple of years there, it was just a one groove racetrack. There you couldn't, and that was when they were all racing the top, and you couldn't hardly race the bottom at all. It is follow the leader at that point, and so they're making moves in the right direction, but they just need to adjust either the cars or do something with the track to be able to make Bristol a multi-groove racetrack again like it should be.
Well, you had the track when they went there a month ago or so, and they had the Xfinity Series the night before, and then you had the Cup Series race 500 laps. The track is fine as long as you get the laps put in to put the rubber down and get the multi-groove racing going, to get that outside line going. This race just didn't have the laps to produce anything to work in the outside line. Because the ending of the Bristol race, the Food City 500, was fantastic. You could use multiple lanes, and there wasn't really an advantage with either lane. It was just, go where they're not. Now it was like, all right, in 1 and 2, if you're not on the bottom, you're losing time. But, by the second, third stage, that outside line had gotten worked in because people were getting past, but it's the All-Star race. You're not letting anybody go. So them sitting on the outside, that's going to build that rubber in, going to rubber in that line. It's going to help that line come in. Because there were some, especially in the Open toward the beginning, there were so many people slipping and sliding because they just weren't in the groove.
Yeah.
That's why, that might have made the Open more exciting. I think they had more to race for in the Open, obviously. You wanted to set yourself up to win one of the stages.
Exactly.
And that's also another thing. I think in the All-Star race, you've got to put some type of emphasis, some type of reward for winning each stage. There's no point in having stages if winning the first 3 doesn't matter.
Right.
Like they used to do it. Like if you won stage 1, you were gonna, enter pit road for a mandatory 4-tire pit stop in first coming into the final stage. Maybe they should do something where your average finish for all 3 stages or something, and invert maybe the field. Do something crazy. Like you're gonna do everything else crazy, but then you leave the format as
The
the
actual
most dull
format, yeah.
thing. Also, the underglow was nothing.
That was horrible.
out of GTA or something like that, they'll just glow under the car. I was like, what am I watching right now? It was different, but I was just kind of like, why? Like, what was the reason for the underglow?
That was like when you didn't have enough money in GTA for the full body underglow, so you just go for the rear.
The rear, yeah. I was just kind of I mean, that's different, yeah, but what's the point of it? I was just so confused.
I was fully expecting the full underglow, like we saw Kurt Busch and Larson in Nashville last year with a full body underglow. So when NASCAR presented this idea, that's what I was thinking was going to happen. I see this, and it was like, what is this? Is this a joke? Like, come on, NASCAR.
How did the numbers look in person, Dom? Did they look better or worse?
In person, you really couldn't tell. I wasn't really focused on the numbers.
Yeah.
The only time you could really see the numbers, you can really see the hood, the numbers on the roof.
Yeah.
When you're really at the track, because we were so high up. We were up in the Earnhardt Terrace off turn 2, so we were up there. We were way up there, up toward the suites.
Yeah.
So really couldn't get a good angle of the numbers. Really under caution you could. I don't know. It's not the worst thing. I think it'd be the best alternative if they had to switch the location of the number. Yeah. But obviously it's nothing like one of the numbers. But I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, the race sucked because the numbers are back. Some people were so hung up about the numbers being pushed back a little bit. It's the All-Star race. Come on. They're going to try something. They try something new every year.
Yeah, I didn't mind it. I thought I wasn't going to like it as much, but after seeing it, I was like, that looks kind of good actually. Mm-hmm. But, I don't know if I'd like for them to do it, long term as a permanent option. But it wasn't as bad as I thought it was gonna be. Definitely better than having the numbers on the rear corner panel. That would have been
horrible.
Yeah, that would.
Now that's a big no.
Yeah, that would make any sense. But it was actually kind of it actually was more pleasing to the eye than I thought it was gonna be.
Some of the paint schemes that fit, like Christopher Bell's 95 car, that honestly didn't look too bad. Hamlin's wasn't really that bad. I liked Harvick's scheme. Didn't like the number. The number was off for me. Even just the size of the number wasn't right for me. But Harvick's scheme was beautiful. Loved that paint scheme. I don't know.
I think a lot of them just flowed pretty nice. And towards the end of the race, I don't know. I guess I'm just so used to seeing a lot of the paint schemes out there that I just wasn't really noticing where the number was.
Yeah, you more or less look at the paint schemes.
Yeah. Yeah, there are some schemes where it worked and some schemes where I was like, I guess it really depends on the sponsor and just kind of like the size of the sponsor and how it looks or whatever. Because I feel like Hamlin's would look good because it's just FedEx. It was just it's perfectly symmetrical and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
But I felt like a couple of them were weird. You looked at Eric Jones and he had the big, Craftsman cross, and then you had the 20. Well, then part of the 20 was kicked out on the fender flare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that kind of bothered me.
Yeah, that's why I feel like Craftsman wouldn't be good for that because it's such a long sponsor that it doesn't look proportional. It's really wide, but it's not tall or anything like that. So.
And Kyle Busch's look kind of weird. You're like, oh, M&M's on the door now. They look different. But I don't think they're going to do anything with the numbers. I think that was a one and done maybe deal. I don't think the numbers are going to move anytime soon. I think so. Do you think the All-Star race stays at Bristol, or do they bring it back to Charlotte?
I think it stays at Bristol as long as as long as they can make that happen, and maybe they need to do, kind of like what they did with the Coke 600, put the All-Star race at Charlotte the week before. So maybe they need to move the spring Bristol race around so that you can have the All-Star race around that race too. So you're not going to Bristol 3 separate times a year.
Yeah.
And but no, I think it's popular amongst the fans, the drivers, the crews, to leave it at Bristol, and I think that's probably, if it's not Martinsville, it's Bristol. It's the perfect place for it.
Yeah, the Iceberg, he posted a video the other day talking about like a possible rotation of tracks that are kind of like they're kind of near kind of near Charlotte or whatever, so the teams aren't traveling across the country and all that stuff. And I think the options he gave was like Darlington, Daytona. I think Martinsville was on there, Richmond, Charlotte, and Bristol, because those are all tracks that are around Charlotte, so teams aren't traveling a load amount of miles away, and they have lights too. So the All-Star race could be at night, and so I feel like that would be kind of interesting to see a All-Star race at like Darlington or Richmond or something like that. So even Daytona, I feel like I feel like if they were to go anywhere, I feel like it'd be Daytona, because I feel like that's something that people would like to see. At least from a fan standpoint, that's what people want to see is plate tracks or whatever. So
I think the only thing that would stop Daytona is just the fact they already have the exhibition race at the beginning.
Yeah,
the Clash.
yeah, they have so many.
That's the only thing that's going to stop them, because they do so many races at Daytona.
Exactly.
They do 3 during speed weeks, well 4, but the drivers race in 3.
Yeah,
and then you get the summer race.
exactly.
So that's the only thing that would stop that. If Talladega had lights, I feel like Talladega could do it.
Oh my god, yeah, that'd be fun.
We need to start a GoFundMe, or somebody does. Talladega some lights already.
Yeah, for real.
Damn, man.
There's even a movie, Talladega Nights or whatever, or lights, and you can't even get lights there. It's like you have a movie named after you, can't even get lights there.
But
The only thing that I could maybe picture, and this is a big if, is if they take away the Busch Clash and then they put the summer race back to July 4th weekend, and then you have the All-Star race kind of like around that same July 4th weekend kind of deal together. But I know they're trying the Busch Clash on the road course next year, so they're not going to get rid of that anytime soon, I feel like. But that's just from a fan's perspective, I guess, would be something cool to see, because you see, like we've seen it with the Major League Baseball and the All-Star game. That's usually a couple weeks after July 4th, and then they always call it the Midsummer Classic, and it's just kind of a good halfway point. So I don't know. From a fan's perspective, I think that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, I could see it. It would be interesting. I think if you're going to do the Bristol as the All-Star race, I think, like we talked about at the beginning, we need another series to run before it. I think you either pair the Truck Series up or the Xfinity Series up that weekend, probably the day before, the night before, to race, and then do the All-Star race. It's almost like how they always did the All-Star race. They had the truck race on Friday night, then you got the Cup race on Saturday night for the All-Star race. Then the next weekend, you had the Xfinity Series and then the Cup Series for the 600. So if they got something like that, and you and add some more laps for the All-Star race, I think it could be perfect. Obviously, you can't control how many people are in the race. It's just that depends on winners and All-Star winners and champions. But it's crazy. Like, who knew Ryan Newman's 2002 All-Star win was going to get him in 2020?
Yep.
Or Matt Kenseth coming out of retiring, and all of a sudden he's in the All-Star race.
Well, enough about the All-Star race. Let's get to Texas, if Texas even happens, with how crazy that state is with the virus.
Yeah.
Almost 15,000 tests positive, today alone. That was very big numbers. It was putting this race in question. And they're supposed to have fans on Sunday. Be interesting to see if the track lets the fans in, and if they even have the race, because if that state goes on lockdown,
Yeah.
who knows what they're gonna do? It looks like it's gonna happen. Truck and Xfinity doubleheader Saturday, and then the Cup race on Sunday for 500 miles. Before mentioned, Wes didn't make a pick last week, so he defaults to the number one pick here today, and he's taking the obvious one, Kevin Harvick to win at Texas again. So that leaves me, since I picked Logano, and Logano didn't do that good in the All-Star race. I'm going to take his teammate, Eric Almirola, one of the hottest drivers in NASCAR, not named Denny Hamlin or Kevin Harvick. So I'm going not Cole Custer. Not Cole Custer. We're going Eric Almirola to get his first ever win on a real racetrack in the Cup Series. That leaves it to Kevin.
Oh, boy. I forgot who even picked last week.
He picked Brad.
Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch.
Was it Kyle Busch?
I think it was Kyle, yeah.
All right. Yep. So, well, you got second.
You got
were
second. Of course,
to
dude.
Steve's guy.
Every single time, dude. I like my guys are consistently good, but they can't win every single week. Oh my god. I probably shouldn't pick this guy because last time he got picked, he got COVID. But I feel like with my luck, he'll get COVID again somehow. But hey, screw it. Jimmy at Texas, he's been historically good there. Might as well.
He's seventh time at Texas.
Yeah, none of my other picks have even gotten a win, so I might as well just go out of the ballpark here and just pick Jimmy. I haven't picked him all year.
Jimmy had a good car in the fall last year, but he junked it. So he had a good car. He was top 5 car, so anything can happen.
Hopefully he doesn't wreck in stage 1, but we'll see.
Hey, I'm just sitting pretty at the top of the board here. 3 wins already, and my boy Chase Elliott winning at the All-Star race helped me out a lot. So
getting spoon-fed.
We shouldn't even count that win exhibition race.
Hey, why do we make picks then? Come on, you said we were making picks.
Yeah, well, if Logano would have won, we would have counted it.
Let's see. I can't go Chase Elliott this week, and obviously Wes took. I was going to take Harvick again.
You really think Harvick was going to slip to you?
Hey man, wishful thinking here.
Wishful thinking.
I don't think I picked this guy all year, and you went.
Don't
with
pick Eric
Harvick's
Jones.
team.
Don't pick Eric Jones.
I thought about it. I really thought about it.
Do it.
And
Don't
watch
do
this
it.
be the week that Eric Jones wins. Let's see. Dom went with Harvick's teammate, and I'm going to go with Jimmy Johnson's teammate. I'm going to go William Byron on this one.
Byron,
man.
24.
Chad Knaus was a big part of a lot of those.
He's
Jimmy
7
Johnson
time
wins.
there. He's 7 time.
That's right. He knows how to set up a car for Texas, and Byron has been fairly all right at Texas. So I'm going to go William Byron. Going to get his first career win Sunday at Texas.
All right. Well, hopefully we can enjoy the race at Texas, one-line racetrack. Hopefully nobody tries to go to the outside line or they'll be in the wall. We learned that last fall with Keselowski and Stenhouse and Denny Hamlin. And don't even think about going in the grass or the front end will be destroyed off your car. So no Gibbs guys picked this week. That's got to be a first.
Yeah.
Usually somebody's throwing Truex or Hamlin or Kyle Busch in there. Usually one of us picks Eric Jones, but hopefully we're done jinxing him. Maybe he might win. I think he got his first win in the Xfinity Series at Texas. So,
yep.
Hey,
he's been pretty good in the Xfinity Series at Texas, but
he hasn't gotten the luck to translate with him to the Cup Series.
He'll be leading on the final pit stop and then over the wall too soon.
Oh man, Eric Jones was flying in that All-Star race. He had the best car, and over the wall too soon. None of his making, but hopefully we get lucky and get a good race. That's all we can ask for because it's one of the 500-mile races, so you don't want to sit there and fall asleep. But got some interesting races coming up that we're going to talk about, including the Daytona Road Course. We'll get into that later on because some drivers have already started to talk about it. But anyways, that's all we got for today. Episode 12 of the Foreign Field Podcast. We will be back for episode Ty Dillon, lucky number 13 next week. So for Steve, Kev, I'm Dom, and we'll see you for episode 13.